Oh, hey! I'm glad you're here. Want to hear a joke? Okay. Why did the chicken cross the road? To get to the video store he grew up in, only it's me and I'm not a chicken, and the video store is still a video store. Well, back to the drawing board on my new hour. Now that is a joke. See, I am not a stand up comedian. I greatly admire the art form and the hard work that goes into the craft, but even when I had the opportunity to start with a crew of very talented people, I just couldn't see myself doing it. Not once during, say, Mitch Hedberg's Comedy Central Presents did I think that's something I could do. I just laughed a lot. I mean, look at George Carlin's Jammin' in New York. I mean, how could anyone pull that off? Or Eddie Izzard's Dressed to Kill. I mean, you think that you could do that? It's impossible. For anyone but them, I think. However, as a kid in a video store, I would always pretend to be someone in a movie. Private Hudson in Aliens, played by Bill Paxton. Severed in Near Dark, played by Bill Paxton. Or even Clyde in Streets of Fire, played by Bill Paxton. What can I say? I'm a Pax head. Where are my Pax heads at? Nick? Sean? Sue? Pax heads? Yes? No? I was tricked in high school to be in front of people, and I learned that people looking at me couldn't kill me. So I dove into theater, acting, voiceover, anything that was not being me. Then one day in college, I found myself sitting across from the smartest and funniest person I have ever met. We spent a few years in the trenches together in improv groups. He's the perfect guest for this episode. So let's just get to it. The film is Punchline, the guest is a stand-up comedian, and this is VH Us. Hello, and welcome to VHS, the podcast where each episode is about a film and the guest has the profession portrayed in the film. I'm your host, Dirk Marshall, and I'm joined in the studio by Ian Karmel, who is a stand-up comedian. Thank you for being here.
My pleasure. I'm sorry it took so long. I'm glad to be here.
Yes. As always, that's a massive oversimplification because you're also the youngest head writer in late-night television. Is that right?
I am currently, again, I was the youngest in history for a while. And then one of my former coworkers became head writer at Fallon for a while.
Oh.
She blew me out of the water by like several years. Nita Swice. She's amazing. But then she left the show, so now I have the mantle once again.
Great.
That's right.
Sorry for her loss. You're also the creator and host of the wildly popular podcast All Fantasy Everything.
I am indeed, yes.
And you could be seen on Game On CBS right now.
Game On, yeah, on the Columbia Broadcasting System on Wednesdays at 8 o'clock.
Yes. It's a real treat. Love seeing you on there screaming about stuff.
It's my thing. It's so I've been trying so hard to make nuanced comedy stuff like in my off time.
Yeah.
And like in my stand-up and then I found this show where like all I have to do is like you're in the barbecue pit now, baby. And then they go to commercial and it's that easy and like kids love it.
Yep.
I've been trying way too hard for way too long. It turns out it was just in front of me the whole time. Like, that's a dinger for sure. And like, people are like, yeah. And then it's so fun.
It's great. You're great at sound bites.
Thank you. Yeah.
You just give them exactly what they need.
Exactly. I'm a short order cook. You know what I mean? The orders come in, I fry them up, and then I send them back out.
People can find out more about you on iankarmel.com, and you're Ian Karmel crossed all platforms. Is that correct?
Cross platforms. Oh, yeah.
Okay, great. One of your cohorts from, I don't know if that's a good word. I should use that. I think
it works.
Did you say that? Okay.
I think you can say cohort, yeah.
Okay. One of your cohorts from All Fantasy Everything, Sean Jordan, was on the podcast. And at the top of his, we drafted our favorite things about you yourself.
Oh, yeah. I heard it.
It would only be right if we did a rapid fire draft of Sean Jordan things.
I love it.
We appreciate about him. I don't know him very well, so I'm also going to add any Jim Varney vehicle. So you can either way.
He does
just four things.
Resemblance to Jim Varney.
So what you can pick first? What's something?
So he is genuinely one of the kindest people I've ever met in my entire life. Like supernaturally, whether like some people are like nice and then they get tired and they're grumpy. Like I'm one of those people. Like if I'm annoyed or like if I'm tired or whatever, it doesn't matter the circumstance. It doesn't matter what's going on in his life or who you are to him or like whether you can do something for him or you can't. He is like genuinely one of the kindest people. You very much have this quality as well, but he's just like eternally and effortlessly sweet. And like,
so nice.
It's really wonderful to see. So that would be the first pick, I think.
Nice.
Yeah.
Mine will be, He saved Christmas. Okay, your pick again.
Okay, so my second pick, I think he's got an excellent lingo. He's like comes from the world of
Mhm.
skateboarding. He's a big skateboarder. So I think from an early age he started adopting really weird words to use for things, and it's leaked
Yes.
into mine. So like dank, gnarly, buck, like all
Yep.
that stuff. And it's really fun to talk to somebody where like a conversation with them is like being stoned in a bounce castle. It's
That's
really,
that's true. That is excellent. Uh, I was gonna pick for the second one, Big Heart, but I think you took
I
it, the
took it
first
already. I
one,
took
so
it.
I can't take that one. I'll just say, if you need someone to voice a slinky wiener dog, that's the guy.
That's the
That's
guy.
who I
That's
would
also
pick.
I could have taken that for Sean too because I feel like he
Yes.
knocked that out of the park.
Yes.
um, the third one, I would say he is excellent at being the butt of a joke. This is I'm saying just because I just got done podcasting with him.
Yes.
He's really good at being the butt of the joke sometimes, but like playing into it and not
Mhm.
like a lot of people get their feelings hurt and that kind of thing. But like I guess this almost goes back to the first thing too. It's such a like underlying layer of love. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? That like
Yeah.
he'll roll with those punches, and like we're kind of like all like that. You can like snap on each other a little bit, uh, but he's really good at it, and then taking it and making it funnier to the point where a lot of our listeners think he's stupid.
Yeah.
Like like people have come up to us when we were on tour last summer at live shows. People were like, hey, I just want you to know, like, I don't think you're stupid. Like, I know everybody else does. And it's like, he's not stupid. He's like a
Yeah.
very intelligent and especially emotionally intelligent person. But like, it is a underrated comedic quality. And on top of being just like regular funny, he's
Yeah.
also really good at that, which is a real skill. It's a real
Yeah.
skill.
Well, I think part of the thing that probably helps him with the snapping is that you guys genuinely care for each other.
Yes.
Whereas if a stranger comes up and is just like, you're the dumb one to him, it's
They
like they
don't know
don't
him.
know him.
Yeah.
Like,
Hey, dummy. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly. Right. They have no idea. They're just somebody who happened to be in Madison, Wisconsin at the same time as us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so funny. Okay, I'll pick if you need a dad for
Mhm.
the 1993 Beverly Hillbillies movie, that's the guy. Works for both.
Fuck, there really is a lot of crossover between them. It really is. I would say he's like somebody who's incredibly down. Like if you're feeling like, hey, I need to go out tonight, he's gonna go
Oh
with.
yeah.
He's gonna roll with. If you're like, hey, let's stay in, let's just fucking watch YouTube videos, he's gonna be down for that. Like he's really, really easy to like get along with like that. He's like down for whatever you need to do or whatever
Yeah.
you want to do.
That's
Um,
great.
yeah, which is like I think it's a good quality in a friend.
Yeah. My last pick will be uh he's a great chef. If you need to put something in a tortilla
Mhm.
and and eat it, Sean does that a lot. Like things
Everything
from
gets
Wingstop,
everything
salad,
ends up in a tortilla. Everything. It's
plain
beans,
tortillas.
just beans in there. It is a very low culture sort of form of fusion cooking.
Yes, yeah, I appreciate that. Well, there you go, Sean. You'll never listen to this. That's fine.
He
Um,
might listen to this. What is anyone doing right now?
oh, that's true.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. But I doubt. The reason I'm joined by Ian is because we're brought together by the film Punchline. Was this a
Yes.
first time watch for you?
It was a first time watch for me. It was,
Okay, I'm
which
so shocked.
which was kind of surprising to me. Like when you brought it up, like I was like, oh my God, I can't believe I haven't seen it. There aren't a lot of movies about stand-up comedy.
A lot of
A
TV shows.
lot of TV shows, way too many TV shows, to the point where they're like, your representatives will tell you your
I think that's right.
representation
There, I
will
get
tell
it.
you like don't write that stuff and don't pitch it anymore.
Stop
And
pitching it.
surprise, surprise, Pete Holmes did it anyway. So
Yep. But it's about me.
it's about me though. It's not about a comedian. It's about me. There's been a lot of like, I mean, fucking Louis, of course, as well.
Yeah.
A ton of shows about it.
Seinfeld.
Seinfeld. A lot of problematic
Maisel.
people. Oh, Maisel. Yeah, Maisel.
That's
Maisel,
great.
by the way, Rachel Brosnahan doing hard Jew face.
Yeah.
Jew face. I'm fine with it, by the way, but it's just like I was watching it the other day, and like I'm like Brosnahan, that's not Jewish, and
There you go.
and she's on there. She might as well be like gefilte fish matzo ball. Every like line is like so.
It is.
It's but that's like Amy Sherman Palladino coming through, and Rachel
Yeah.
just being like Rachel. I don't know her. Rachel Brosnahan being like a very talented actor. But yeah, I'd never seen Punchline before, and
Yeah.
which is weird. I love Sally Field, Tom Hanks, of course.
Sure.
And then I was pretty surprised by it.
Yep. It's surprising. The synopsis is a medical school dropout and a housewife mom try to make it as stand-up comedians. They become friends and help each other out at a New York City comedy club. That's so much information.
Oh yeah, that's the whole movie right there.
That's it.
Yeah.
It just makes it sound slightly more fun than it is to watch. At the time of this recording, you can rent it at your local video store like Movie Madness here in Portland, Oregon. Or you can stream it on Amazon, Crackle, or YouTube if you're a putz.
I was a putz.
No, I'm
Glendale
just
does
kidding.
not have
I did too. First, let's put the film in context. The director is David Seltzer.
Mm-hmm.
He started in National Geographic in 1965. He did Lucas.
Oh yeah.
There you go.
Yeah,
Punchline, Shining Through, Nobody's Baby, and Sabine and the Two-Headed Baby. Those aren't related movies. But as a writer, he wrote The Omen, Willy Wonka, My Giant, and Bird on a Wire.
Wow.
Yeah.
My Giant. I've
There it
seen
is.
My Giant. Yeah.
Yes.
Is that where Billy Crystal goes to like Europe to discover George Mirasan? Yeah. Absolutely.
Yes. The cinematographer is Reynaldo Villalobos.
Had to
He's a
be.
beast. Urban Cowboy.
Had to be for this.
9 to 5, Risky Business, and Romy and Michelle's high school reunion.
Oh yeah, that's quite the resume.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
pretty vast. I mean, he's still doing stuff. The editor was Bruce Green, who did Friday the 13th, 5 and 6, Young Guns 2, Angels in the Outfield, Phenomenon, Runaway Bride, Big Mama's House, and Mr. Popper's Penguins.
Oh, that's my favorite group of penguins. If I had to pick one loose coalition of penguins,
Yes,
it would be Mr. Poppers.
Mr. Poppers. That's a Jim Carrey, is that right?
I think so.
I missed
There was a
that one.
period where he was just like
Yeah.
constantly making movies.
Yeah,
and I
it
feel
was-
like people saw him. Like, do you think people who are like 23 right now like love Mr. Popper's Penguins?
I met one, and that's all they talked about.
That was.
I was at the farmer's market, and I was like, how much are these cucumbers? And they're like, in Mr. Popper's Penguins.
About as many dollars as there are penguins in Mr. Popper's Penguin Posse.
If you don't know, you can't buy this.
Mr. Popper, by the way, it was that. What is the drug? The poppers? What are the?
Oh, amyl nitrate?
Yeah, amyl nitrate. That's what. That's Mr. Popper. That's why he called him that. Then he got
knew
out
that.
of the game.
I knew that too quickly. My mom listens to this. I should have been like, I don't know, Ian.
My mom will also listen to this. Mom, we don't know what poppers are. We never have, only for comedy reasons. Mr. Popper
Yes.
cleaned his life up, got into penguins, got out of amyl nitrate, but kept the nickname because it suited him so well.
Oh my gosh. For the sake of time, we'll forego the cast and just address them as they come.
Oh yeah.
And let's press play on Punchline. We start with the subway and an almost film noir soundtrack, and a woman enters a late night diner.
Mhm.
It's Sally Field, who would later play Tom's mom in Forrest Gump.
Jesus, that's right. But in this movie, they're only 10 years apart.
Yeah, and he's like making a move on her.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oy, oy, oy.
You might recognize her from Spider-Man 2 or Steel Magnolias.
Goes to the two. There's two kinds of people in this world.
You Lila?
Arnold?
What's the password?
A man asks if she knows the password, and it seems like a drug deal, but he's selling jokes to her for $20 a pop or $500 a package.
Insane. An insane amount of money. People don't really buy jokes anymore.
Okay.
Anyway, to my knowledge, listen, like this is germane to the conversation happening in the world right now, in addition to ours, but like, because there's a lot of comedians who are being outed as creeps,
Yeah. Yes.
and there are people who are like, how did you not know? How did you not know about like Chris D'Elia or like any of these
Yeah.
people? And listen, I will fucking condemn it roundly any chance I get. I think it's disgusting and terrible. But like, I think people think we all know each other.
Yes.
I think they really think that. I've never met Chris D'Elia in my entire life. I've seen
Never?
him. Never. I've never met him. I've seen him with my own eyes, not on a screen, like one time when it was on the Oddball Comedy Festival, which was when they tried to make like that big music festival, but for comedy.
Yeah.
I was on like a side stage opening, and he was on the main stage. And that was like the only time I've ever seen him in person. So it's like this kind of thing where it's very comedy is like hundreds of tiny clicks. Like
Yeah.
it just is. There's like your little group, and then I guess if you're at the store, you probably like met that guy a lot. But I do not enjoy the store. But to go back to the joke selling thing, I've never known anyone who bought jokes. And for the 80s, that seems like an insane price for a bunch of like Polish jokes, which is what
Yes.
it was like what she was buying. But maybe that's the hustle. Maybe the hustle is like you sell jokes to unassuming people.
I guess
Want to get into stand-up, but like also you don't tell them any of the jokes. They just buy them.
Just a book.
And it was clear that guy was also selling those jokes to like other people because she goes on to and people like know the punchlines and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, that part. And again, I can't speak to what it was like in the 80s, but I don't know. Rodney Dangerfield famously sold jokes for a long time, actually.
Someone in Portland, didn't somebody in Portland sell a joke? Like
Tim Hammer. You remember Tim Hammer at all?
Yeah.
Tim Hammer. So for the listeners, Tim Hammer is a man, but was a one-liner comedian, like which is like, I get like, you know, in a traditional stand-up right now, you have people who are kind of like telling stories and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But he would be like, what happens when the Mountain Dew factory runs out of ingredients? They'll have to make do with what they have, you know? So he would like tell jokes like that, which I think one of the big reasons people don't buy jokes from each other or sell jokes is like comedy's very personal now. It's like very about, and I guess this movie kind of gets into that. It's very about like one person talking about their own experiences maybe. And even like someone like Seinfeld, who's an observational comedian, it's still, you learn about who that person is through their perspective on the world, you know?
Right.
But a joke like that Tim Hammer one, literally anyone could tell. So he came from a religious background that was very severe, who earnestly believed the world was going to come to an end at some point, and some point soon. And maybe they were right now with everything going on. But so he would like go get into these phases. Like his family had no idea he was doing comedy.
Yeah.
And I think they caught wind of it once, and like he quit and like repented and sold somebody his jokes, and somebody bought them, which I remember at the time just being like, I don't know, like the audiences don't know. And listen, like I've been very privileged in my career to like that I caught on early. I got enough kinds of other jobs that were around comedy, and like that I never really had to do the tonight I'm in Helena, Montana for 60 cowboys who hate my guts, you know, kind of thing. So, and like now I don't think I would judge someone for like buying someone else's jokes quite like that. But at the time I was like, what the fuck are you doing? We all know those are Tim's jokes. You're up there doing Tim's jokes. It feels like karaoke. And they would tell them at like, we would be doing a bar show together in Portland where most of the crowd is other comics anyway. And like, they're up there doing Tim's jokes. And you're just like, what are you doing, man? I'm like, what is this?
That is so weird.
It was so weird. So I don't think it really happens anymore. What does happen is you will get hired to go write jokes for somebody or with somebody.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is my next question.
Oh, great. Yeah.
Because in addition to stand-up comedy, you write jokes for shows like Chelsea Lately, and now the Late Late Show. Everything involves lates with James Corden.
I'm good at nighttime jokes.
Well, yeah. Once the sun goes down.
Nighttime jokes.
What's the process like, and how is it different from, like, say, Chelsea to Corden?
Oh, yeah. Vastly different for that. So Chelsea was like the easiest job I've ever had in my entire life. It was crazy. It was like, because like, is the show had already peaked and was descending by the time I got there. And like, pretty quick into my time there, it was clear that like, she was not going to pick up her next contract and wanted to go explore other things. So she wasn't really motivated. If the host is motivated, it's a lot harder, but also it's a lot more fun, but it's a lot harder. So like there, we would sit around a table in the morning and like bring up news stories and like pitch on the news stories, pitch jokes around the table. Like mostly entertainment stories and stuff like that, or very like easy access political stories and news
Got it.
stories and stuff like that. And writers' assistants would just write down what you said. And
You don't
then
even have
like
to write it?
no. You would sit, you would like, people would be like, oh, that's gold.
What?
Yeah. You would sit around a table drinking coffee and pitching jokes. And sometimes Chelsea was there, sometimes Chelsea wasn't there. And she would only need like 6 or 7 jokes a show from that, because like they approached the news via the panel, right? So she would be hosting the panel with 3 comedians. She would tell a joke or two every news story, and then the panelists would each tell a joke or two. And her monologues were like from her personal life. So she would go out and like most of the writers wouldn't work on that. Jen Kirkman would work on that. This guy Chris Frangiola would work on that. Sue Murphy, who was like I don't even know exactly. She was an executive producer, but she was more like a head writer, executive producer. And Tom, this guy Brad and Tom would work on it too. So they would like kind of work on that monologue based on something Chelsea wanted to talk about, while the rest of us would kind of like pitch ideas on sketches or just try to come up with like any kind of sketch. I ended up playing like Guy Fieri in some sketches on the show, and like and if something was newsy, you could do like a walkout. Like there was some story with the Girl Scouts where I walked out in like Girl Scout gear. So that show, but that was like, if it came to you, you could write it. Like on the Late Late Show, I mean, I started on that job from like
You started at the beginning, right?
Very beginning. There were like 3 writers, me, Sean O'Connor, this guy James Davis, and a producer in a trailer, like working for like 2 weeks before James even moved to America. So that show, I mean, it's really, really fun, but like he's an ambitious man, and it's worked out. I mean, like the show's won like 11, 12 Emmys or something like that, and like it has the most subscribers on YouTube or whatever. So it's been like very successful. But that has been like a fucking like I mean, you're writing like so many jokes in the morning every day, and then you're like, the best way I could describe that is like you have like short-term jobs, medium-term jobs, and long-term jobs, and they're all happening at the same time. So like short-term, you have to write like for the monologue, you know, and then like also maybe there's something in the news he wants to do like a desk piece about or something. So that's short-term. That's like, we thought of it that day, it's going to be on the show that night. And then there's medium-term stuff, which is like refillable bits, where it's like, that's the stuff like that we do on the show, like honest headlines or like emoji news or like those kind of bits. Where it's like, hey, we know that's going to be on Wednesday. We need to get these jokes in front of them on Monday. So we're writing that Thursday, Friday, the week before. And then there's the long-term stuff, which is like Jeff Goldblum's going to be on the show in 2 weeks. Let's get a bunch of ideas for Jeff Goldblum. And then there's like, then that's like, okay, we bring those ideas in. He picks 3 or 4 that he likes. We send those off to Jeff Goldblum. Hopefully he likes one of them. If not, it's back to the drawing board. So like those are like, so that's all of this is happening at the same time. And it's like, on the one hand, it's fun. I mean, it's so, you know, like it's fun to do that. Like it's really fun to like, to do, but it's also like it's quite a grind, you know? And if you are like getting 10% of the things you write on the show, you're like one of the best writers in late night. Like it's like that kind of like, so you just have to be so okay with stuff getting like thrown away.
I enjoy watching the monologues and trying to figure out which jokes are yours. Because like sometimes there's one where I'm like, I'll just sit back and be like, oh, that's an Ian Karmel. That's delicious.
It's kind of fun to sneak your own voice in there. The other cool thing that like has been lucky for me is like, since I was there for day one and he didn't really have, you know, James was like a Broadway dude. He didn't really have, I mean, and like Gavin and Stacey back in England, but like he didn't really, that's so good. He didn't really have like an established stand-up comedian voice. So like I got to like be part of helping to invent that, you know what I mean? Which is
and I think
fun.
Part of that shows through because his persona that he has is one that's like jovial and kid-like and playful, and those are ways I'd describe like you in life, although you're also like super duper smart, but you have this fun way about you
Well,
that
thank you.
you know, people find, I think, they magnetize to you. You know.
Yeah, I hope so. I
Yeah.
hope so.
I think so. In prepping for this, I realized that I'm the only person on the planet that can probably say this. I shared the stage with you. I voiced a commercial for Diamond Nuts with you.
Yeah,
I was the voice in a cartoon with
that's
you.
right. We
I'm
were
probably the only person on the planet that's done all of those things.
absolutely. You were the person who was there when like I figured out I wanted to do comedy because
Yeah.
it was that first class, and it was like within we got partnered up, right?
Yep. I
Yeah,
remember sitting cross-legged on the floor
I do
across from
too.
you, and I think you were, what, 18, 19?
I was like 19 years old, maybe
19,
20,
yes.
maybe 20. Yeah,
Yeah.
because
You
this
were
was
closer in age to when you played football than his career in stand-up.
way closer. Yeah, I didn't start stand up until I was like 25 or so. Like did a lot of
Yeah.
improvs and stuff before that. Yeah, and we were there in that first class, but like
Mhm.
it clicked so hard like
Yeah.
in that first class where it was like, oh my God, this is amazing. This is like what I want to do with the rest of my life. Like, and it was within that very first class in
Yeah.
that very first day. It was
Yeah.
great. And we were partnered
There's
up.
only a couple people that I've met in my life where I met him and I was like, I want to know this person forever. I don't care what label that takes, or you know what, how tangential the friendship is, but I want to know this person. And you're one of those people because you just have that way about you, and you're just so funny and quick, and it just
Oh,
it's like
thank you.
addicting.
Fucking you too, man. I mean, like it was so we were in improv groups to get like
Yes.
it's so man, it's such a weird, it's fucking nice to talk to you about this. So few like I don't know, man. There's this such a weird like perception of comedy right now that
Yeah.
like I don't know, like it's warranted in a lot of ways, but like I don't know, man. We were like in the basement of like a Mexican food restaurant. You know what I mean? Or like
Yeah.
or like wherever you know, like various theaters like doing comedy for crowds of like 10 people. You know what I mean? And like
Yeah, it got up to like 200 towards the end.
it did get up. We built up a following, but it was because like it's because we loved it, man. It was just like
Yeah.
I don't know, like I hate to sound like at the age of like 35, like some sort of bitter, like bitter old, you know what I mean? Complaining, but like I don't know, man. People think like I don't know. It's just because we fucking love it, and any level of like success that comes is like really great, and it's nice, and like
Yeah.
it's good to have like health insurance finally, and to be able to like
Yes.
you know what I mean? Like not
Yeah.
worry about like, hey, am I ever going to be able to like consistently live somewhere that I'm not sharing a room with somebody or whatever? Like,
Right.
all that stuff is nice, but like also would have been doing it if it didn't work out, you know, like
Yeah.
that same way. So yeah, man, those were fucking
Yeah. It was, I loved the stuff that we did. I definitely did not like a lot of the things people don't like about improv groups.
for sure. Squeaky
But
doors.
yeah. Oh man. Knife.
Knife.
Yeah. Yeah. But there's something about the forcing yourself to be on stage in front of people and hoping that something funny comes out of your face in that moment, and then to walk off and have it actually have happened. It's just like, oh, there's nothing.
It is such an amazing feeling, and
Yeah.
nothing, like I mean, like nothing is. I don't know. Nothing feels quite like that. It's so like performing without a net like that, and
Yeah.
it has helped me in every other thing I've done in comedy, like stand up and writing and like
Yeah.
around the table and like acting and like the few times I've been able to do that, like once you've done like the scariest thing, everything else is a little bit easier, and then all those skills also come into play.
Yeah.
Yeah, with
It's in the
podcasting certainly,
toolkit.
too. Yeah,
Yeah,
not
for
exactly.
sure. So James doesn't just walk in and say like, Ian, I need a meatloaf joke. That's my James Corden. He's from the UK, right?
It's striking. Yeah.
Get
And
rid
they
of it.
love a lot of people don't know is panel shows are big there and meatloaf humor. They're they're a very meatloaf forward country. He does not walk in and say that.
Okay.
Although sometimes he will walk in and be like, "Hey, I want to do something about this," and then it's always for me. It's always
Can you do it in his voice?
I want to do something about the Grenfell Tower disaster.
Oh, that's spot on. You definitely have worked with him for 6 years.
You capture it's nuanced because
That's true.
he's from a northern London suburb.
Oh, okay. That's what it is.
So you have to people want to go posh with it, but he's from a northern London suburb, and it's a very distinctive.
That's so good.
Yeah, he like it's always fun. I mean, I used the Grenfell Tower, which was a very serious disaster, but something he did want to talk about.
Oh yes.
But most of the time, it's like, oh, hey, I want to do this thing with Josh Gad or whatever, and then it's like, oh, this is fun. Let's fucking figure out something for these two to do together.
What is it like for you? We've totally deviated from the movie here, but like for the crosswalk part, that segment.
Oh,
and
crosswalk,
yeah, you did the Aladdin one, and there's a picture of you and Will Smith.
Yeah.
So when you're talking to these people that are actors and whatnot, are you pitching jokes to them on the spot or?
Yeah, absolutely. So like it kind of depends. Some actors will come in and they just will do whatever's in the script and like are happy to just do whatever you've written beforehand. And when we do crosswalk, we hand them a fully formed script with all the jokes and alt jokes and stuff like that. Yeah. And some people like Will Smith, like has some of his own ideas, which is not surprising because the man has been such a like self-starter. That he comes in, he's like, what is this? What if we do this? Would this be kind of funny? And that picture, I'm telling him, listen up, you fucking Hollywood motherfucker. I'm in the Writers Guild. You're not. And you're going to do the jokes I wrote. And I'm laughing because I enjoy when other people are feeling uncomfortable. No.
I was like, for a second, I was like, oh my gosh, I didn't know Ian at all.
Yeah. I was telling him like it is. No, and that one, like, I don't know. I just love it, man. I think some people do get, like, maybe defensive about the stuff they've written. But, like, I don't know. Easy come, easy go for a lot of that shit. Like, if Will Smith comes in and he's got, like, some funny ideas that he's excited about, like, then you get to sort of, like, improvise with Will Smith. I mean, to go back to, like, now, like, you're yes-anding his joke. He's building off of what you just said. The two of you are laughing together. And it's a very cool feeling. There are not a lot of like instances, and not that these people are schmucks or anything like that. It's just like they have oftentimes so many rings of people around them that you're never going to get like an authentic moment with Will Smith if you I don't know, like
your Tom Cruise stories are amazing.
Those are crazy too. I have more. Yeah, like with Tom Cruise, like that's a very collaborative dude. We filmed the thing I can't say anything about other than that it was with Tom Cruise and we were there all day because it hasn't come out yet. But like, we were just like, so we had to be there all day.
The boat one was amazing.
The boat one was so fun. And like the skydiving thing.
Yeah.
Was super fun.
That was your idea, right?
Yeah. Oh no, the skydive. I wrote it. I wrote the boat one and I wrote the skydiving thing. I don't remember whose idea skydiving was. It was probably Tom Cruise's idea.
Man, pushing him around on the little scooter on his belly.
That was my idea.
That's great. Yeah. That is fantastic.
and my favorite joke from that one was the instructor was wearing cargo shorts and flip-flops. And like, this is the fun thing about writing is like, I couldn't have known that, but I saw it and I walked over to Cord and I was like, I forget exactly what the joke is, but it was something about him like jumping in to liberate a Tommy Bahamas or something like, or a Margaritaville. I forget what. But we just shot. So I can't go into the details, but we did the thing, and like you're there with them all day, and again, when you're stuck on set with someone for all day, like they start to just become like another person.
Yeah.
And at some point, me, another writer, and like Tom Cruise were sitting there talking about like musicals and stuff like that.
That's so crazy.
And it's fucking wild, man. And like, I mean, people have said a lot of stuff about him and I don't know. I can't speak to any of that. I can only speak to what it's like to work with him personally. And he's a very intense person and nobody has ever made more eye contact. And I mean like sustained it. And also how intense his eye contact is. Like you start to feel like you're vibrating. Like if you held like a crystal up to me, it would sing. Kind of thing. Like
I've always said that about you, though.
If I had to describe Ian in one,
you know him. If you hold a crystal up to him, it would sing, and everyone's like, "Oh,
he's one of those. Oh, he's Jewish."
Oh no.
Yeah. But he sends me a cake every year, and he's like really, really fun to talk to. And like that's the cool thing about this. You're like at heart, and like I guess this is kind of what I was saying about comedy in general. Is like. Those people all just got into acting and performing and whatever they do because they loved it at some point and they just really liked it. And once you're like collaborating like on something like Crosswalk the Musical or the stuff we do, and they have ideas and you have ideas, at some point, all the fucking movies they've been in, like fall away, all the success, all the money, everything. And then it's just you and another person who really enjoys doing this, pitching ideas back and forth. And then it's like we're sitting like cross-legged on the floor in that improv class again.
Right.
And it's just like two fun people having fun together. And like, that is such a cool thing. But I was screaming at Will Smith. I was screaming him as hard as I could.
Well, in the movie, we get the credit sequence. I'm going to have to cut a lot of these notes. And we get a melange of talent telling jokes to what feels like a dead room.
I hate Wilma Flintstone. I want to talk about it. I think she's a fucking bitch.
I'm from right here in New York, from a large family. There's 10 kids in my family, man. That's a lot of kids, Jack. My father had stretch marks. There's a bunch of us.
I know you're all staring at me thinking, my God, look at this girl. She looks so much like Diana Ross. I can't get over it.
Sally tells a Polish joke and a person shouts the punchline.
Mm-hmm.
Why does the audience at comedy clubs think they need to be involved in the situation?
I don't know. And it's one thing they nailed quite a few things, but two things they nailed is dudes yelling stuff out and bachelorette parties pulling focus.
Oh man.
And those are two like very true things about doing stand-up. With the dude thing, I think a lot of the time is
they're emasculated.
Like, because it's such a, like, it's a very popular date thing, but then like guys get intimidated if you're a guy making their like date or their girlfriend laugh, and then they're like, I'm funny too, and they want to yell stuff out, and it's just, it never ends well. It's always a bummer. It's like some comedians do enjoy like a riff going back and forth, and it can be fun, but it's never fun if you can tell the root of it is insecurity. Yeah. Some people don't know. Some people think like they got a funny thing to say, or like somebody in the crowd will be laughing too hard sometimes at a joke and like leaning over at somebody, you know, and you're like, oh, this hit them in a different way. And then it's fun to talk to that person and try to pull the story out. But like, you can early on in your stand-up career tell when some dude is just like pissed that you made the girl he's with laugh. It's gross. It's so dumb.
We see Damon Wayans. He's in this movie. That's always a treat. And then then Tom wakes up to a robust orchestral music, and we remember it's a Tom Hanks film.
Yeah, Tom Hanks loves being in a movie where he wakes up.
Yes, it's true.
He loves it. He's one of Hollywood's best waker-uppers. He really is.
It's true. If he comes on late, you got to be like, if you pitch him a skit, be like, so you wake up, and he'll be like, I love it.
I'm in.
Present. I'm good. Doesn't matter if the rest is horribly racist.
He wakes up and then he almost gets hit by a cab. Another thing, as long as it happens within a minute of him waking up.
It's so true.
Yeah.
He goes to take a test because we need to know this backstory of his failed medical career.
It's important.
Doctor asks him the name of a small part of the intestine, and he says poop chute.
Yeah, he does.
Large intestine? What part of the large intestine? Well, look,
Do you know it or not?
Yes, of course I do.
Then what is it?
The poop chute?
What doesn't make sense about that is like the actual answer was rectum, and any stand-up comedian would have rectum.
Oh,
damn near killed him right there in their hip pocket.
That would have been it.
Yeah.
Well, he's not a very good comedian, as we learn in this movie. Have you ever had your sense of humor be a hindrance in your life? Because Tom can't stop making jokes is the thing.
He can't stop making jokes.
Even though he's not funny for the rest of the film.
He knew, that's the thing, he knew all the answers to that medical thing.
Yeah.
He was self-sabotaging, I think, because he knew he didn't want to be a doctor, right?
There you go. Yeah.
But like, I not really. One time in like, this was in middle school before I even knew I wanted to be a comedian. And somebody's report card or progress report, her name was Lori Dowdy. I still remember it. And she lived in LA, and I've seen her from time to time. Her report card fell out, and I didn't have good grades either, but I picked it up and I was like, a 2.0 or something like that, thinking I was being very funny and showy. And she felt so bad immediately, and the teacher was so furious at me. And like, the second it came, I was like, oh, that's not funny at all. Oh no. And I still have guilt pangs from it. But for the most part, my sense of humor has been coming handy.
Say 2.0? No.
2.0? No, that would have killed if I did.
Okay.
1.0 Netrix. What's that one band? 1.0. Anyway, No, I haven't. Like, I don't know. If you went and asked like several of my ex-girlfriends, maybe I've been like trying to be funny when I shouldn't have been funny. But like,
Okay, I'll just give me that list and I'll make some calls.
Absolutely.
But
But I never.
you don't know me, but
You dated Ian Karmel, right? What was the worst part?
that was the worst.
And because you're in California, I have to tell you this is being recorded. I don't think it has. I don't think it's ever really kind of tripped me up the way it did him there.
Okay, good. We get a shot of Tom on stage, and then we see backstage, and it's huge.
It's
populated.
Crazy.
There's lockers.
I love the idea of that. Again, I don't know what it was like in New York in the 80s. Like maybe there were 12 comedians and they all worked one club and had one locker, but like, no, never anything like that. You have a wall you put your backpack next to in the green room, and that's like all you get. It doesn't matter how big a comedian you are. That's it.
I talked to my manager, and he said that you should send him a tape. Everybody starting out needs a tape. And he says that the networks, they love housewives. They're into housewives.
Oh, my gosh. People say you got to have a tape to get to the next stage, which is interesting because you put out an album called 9.3 on Pitchfork.
9.2 on Pitchfork.
9.2.
Thank you for the extra.
That's an autocorrect.
Yeah.
I would have said 9.9.
And it was actually, here's a funny story. Pitchfork didn't review it. So it was, yeah.
And it's on Kill Rock Stars, right? Or
yeah, Kill Rock Stars.
Okay. I thought it's either you or Kathleen Hanna, but
no, she put it out on Comedy Central Records.
She said she's only been doing comedy for 13 weeks.
It's a weird way. That's like the way people keep track of children's ages. What noise is happening outside of my house?
I don't know.
Machine gun? Probably not a machine gun. All right.
I hope it's not.
Here's hope. I'd be very surprised if there were a machine gun in this neighborhood.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
What were we talking about? 13 weeks. So bizarre.
It's weird. Yeah, it's like measuring the age of a baby. But
yes.
I guess once you've done stand-up, maybe you would keep track of it like that. I barely know how many years I've been doing it now.
Yeah, I've heard 10 years to find your voice. I've never heard someone be like, I've been in the game for 9 weeks.
Shit's different now. Shit's different. I've been in this for 9 weeks, so I remember when like you could tell a Polish joke. Yeah, she's like, 13 weeks.
Yeah, so bizarre.
This call Columbus Circle because when Columbus came here, he looked all around.
Tom does accents. We see a bunch of people of different cultures watching him do the accents, and they're all happy with it.
They love it. They love it. I mean, fair play. That is an accurate representation of 1980s stand-up comedy. But like watching it right now, I was like squirming.
Yeah, it's pretty uncomfortable, especially to have it be Tom Hanks, which everyone just loves.
Loves it.
Man, this is the first time I'd watched him, and I was like, why would you make him an asshole?
I know.
Like, he's Tom Hanks.
They didn't know what to do with him. I don't know if now's the time to get into this or not, but like he like dark Tom Hanks is like it's jarring to the senses, and but like I mean there's like almost too much. There's almost too much of a narrative about like the sad clown doing stand-up comedy kind of thing. Like,
sure,
everyone's kind of depressed and situationally depressed, of course, but especially now, and there probably are like a higher percentage of like maybe depressed people in comedy who are looking for affirmation any way they can get it and have a bottomless hole that they need to fill with it, which is like stand-up. Like, you know, every night you go up and get affirmed by people if you do it well, but like. They did there are like fucking dark souls in stand-up comedy. And when I heard going into that, when I was like, oh, it's this Tom Hanks movie, he does stand-up and Sally Field's in it. Like, I thought it was going to be like watching like fucking like mid-90s Tom Hanks. You know what I mean? Just like a likable, affable stand-up comedian. Yeah.
Shenanigans.
Right, exactly. Yeah, so I did think that was like, I didn't expect it, and it wasn't fun to watch, but I was like, that is, they did it. That's what a lot of people are like.
I just found like all of his edgy jokes were weird coming out of Tom Hanks. Like the sperm joke was hard to swallow for sure.
Yeah.
Tom says he's getting Tom says he's getting paid $15 a set, which if it's $20 a joke and $15 a set, this is a terrible business.
The math is awful. It's all off. It's all, they needed to bring in Milton Friedman for at least a day on set. Like none of it made sense. Also, that's what you get paid now, by the way. And that
okay.
that $15 a set is like, I think you get paid more in New York and at the big clubs, but like 15 is like the minimum at the Improv and like what you usually get.
Wow.
And that is the result of a comedian strike, which the show I'm Dying Up Here is kind of about, sort of leading up to. So that's, you used to not get anything, and then like Bud Friedman and Mitzi Shore agreed to start paying people $15 a set. So that was accurate too. Yeah.
That's crazy. He goes to a talent scout. Sally takes a taxi, moving right along. We see a comedic musical nun act.
Then I get up in the morning, try to catch me a novena.
And that is that's George McGrath. He was a writer on Pee-wee's Playhouse and Kids Incorporated.
Oh, I remember Kids Incorporated. I remember both of those, but also Kids Incorporated.
You're like, I've never heard of Pee-wee.
I don't know who Pee-wee, it sounds, I don't know, it sounds serious. Is that Lawrence Fishburne show?
Yeah, but he went by Larry then.
That's right, Larry Fishburne.
Yeah.
That didn't make any sense to me. But again, that probably did play
in the 80s.
In the 80s. What was the joke? That a nun was singing?
Yeah, that's the whole act, is that he dresses up like a nun and sings songs.
And that he got to be in the big contest at the end because he's a nun who sings.
Well, there's only 10 people that perform
That's true,
at
that's
the comedy club. It's like the comedy boom, and they're like, well, we need what? 8?
10
seems
comedians? None of them are good? All right. Perfect.
Tom says he's been doing comedy for 18 months at this. Mm-hmm. And he's like, I got to get it soon because I'm going to quit.
Insane. It's an insane amount of time. Like, I don't know. 18 months in, like I had an atypical stand-up experience, probably because like of the improv background. Like I was so used to being on stage, but like, so like 18 months in, I had won like Portland's Funniest Person.
Yeah.
Which was kind of like, I guess, but I wasn't doing late night. Like
I thought that you beat Sean Jordan.
I did beat Sean Jordan.
Oh, but who's the finalist guy? There was one guy.
In Portland's Funniest Person?
Yeah.
Oh, God. I don't know.
It was a white guy, and I got him confused with Sean for years.
It was me, Sean.
That's okay. We don't have to name him on here.
Cody.
He knows who won.
He knows. He's listening. He fucking knows. He fucking knows. This could have been you. This could have been your Emmy. There was the Portland Amateur Comedy Contest, which I won right away.
Yes.
And then I think there was also and then there was the Portland's Funniest Person, which was Helium's contest.
And then you were on Portlandia.
And I was in Portlandia too.
Yeah.
So good things did start happening, but they're angling for like a spot on Carson. 18 months into doing stand-up is
isn't that crazy?
Absurdly early. That's absurd. Like again, Seinfeld. I didn't do Carson within 18 months of starting. Chappelle didn't do late. You know what I mean? Like that's totally unrealistic. But they had to fit it into that medical school timeline. I get it.
Yes, that's what it is.
Yeah. When you first asked to do this, it was to get it out of your system. But now look what the hell's happening. 3 nights last week. How many this week? How many next?
Stop it! What do you want?
A wife.
For dinner. What do you want for dinner?
Then we get to see that John Goodman plays the husband to Sally Fields. So David Seltzer has literally sucked the life out of Tom Hanks, John Goodman, and Sally Fields in this movie.
He's so unlikable at first. He's so
unlikable. Yes, when he finally smiles, it's like an abusive relationship when they apologize because we're just like beaten dogs. We're like, thank you
for smiling, We need it so bad.
My gosh,
you can't make John Goodman be like a schmuck for a whole movie. It's impossible. He's so banal and awful in the beginning of the movie.
And he confronts her on missing money, and the kids, she says she spent the money on jokes, and the kids say, I have one for you, Mama. You can have it for free. And I was like, oh, that's a sweet little moment. So would you like to hear my daughter's favorite joke?
Yes, I would.
Okay, she's 6. She says, where do fish sleep?
Where?
Under the covers.
It's
not really that's not the joke. It's where do books sleep. That's what it is.
There it is. Okay,
Under the covers. She has 2 jokes.
Oh, those are. So the first one was hers as well.
No, it's not.
Oh, okay.
It's the book one. Yeah, she says,
thought it
where do
was-
books sleep under the covers?
I thought it
And,
was a Little Mermaid meta commentary, and she was
No.
just light years ahead of her time. Under
and then
the covers.
the other one is which fish swims at night? A starfish. But the best part about both of her jokes is after
Yeah.
she does the punchline, she goes, classic joke, womp womp womp. I don't know where she got a catchphrase from, but that's what she does after.
She's
every
fucking.
joke.
She's 5 years in. She's ahead of where Tom Hanks and
Yes.
Sally Field were.
Yes.
Hamburger. She's way.
Hamburger.
That's a real comedian with catchphrase from the 80s.
Really?
Yeah. His hamburger. I forget the guy's
Was
name.
it Neil Hamburger?
It was not Neil Hamburger. It was a different
Oh.
hamburger.
All right.
He was a black guy who wore a cowboy hat and said hamburger.
Hamburger.
All right. Well, then at this point, we see Tom's mad. He's talking on the phone.
Screw the back rent, man. I'm gonna be rich. I'm gonna get discovered tonight. Yeah.
It's like watching your dad be mad. It's not a pleasure.
No.
I can just imagine him saying, like, Colin, you got Yoo-hoo on the Davenport. That's a Tom Hanks problem, I think.
Chet, what happened? Chet, what happened to that typewriter? Chet, what happened to that typewriter that Clint Eastwood sent me?
That's a really good Tom Hanks.
I had no idea I could do it.
There it is.
Chet, I can look at. I can't make heads or tails of the situation. I've looked everywhere for that typewriter.
Oh man, that is excellent.
Chet, you have to stop talking in a Jamaican patois. You're embarrassing the whole family. I love you. I love you like the Dickens, but I'm taking it too far.
Oh man. So then Tom Hanks and her go to a diner or something.
That I would sell you jokes. Do you want to buy some?
Not from you, you piece of crap.
She wanted to say shit.
Yeah.
Seltzer wouldn't let her, dude.
Nope.
He would have risked the family's LaCroix fortune.
I'll tell you who's not a piece of crap. Our sponsors. And we'll be right back.
Oh, yeah.
Are you tired of boring food and condiments made of processed ingredients? Then you need Marshall's Hot Sauce. Each small batch is made by Sarah Marshall, who sources from local farmers. Her dedication to knowing the sources carries on through right down to knowing the single origin beekeeper and even the harvester of the sea salt. Each sauce is plant-based, gluten-free, and packed with deliciousness. Annual offerings from mild to spicy being smoked habanero barbecue, red chili lime, serrano ginger lemongrass, and habanero carrot curry. Not to mention a rotating offering of limited edition sauces like Whiskey Smoked Ghost, Caramelized Scorpion Ghost, Volcano Sparkle, and even a collaboration with the Heatonist Bird's Eye Charred Chive Dulce. There's always something new and delicious. Just head on over to marshallshotsauce.com. That's Marshall's HAUTESAUCE.com. When checking out, enter VHUS in promo code for 20% off. That's VHUS at checkout for 20% off. And now, back to the show. We're back. He tells her it takes work. You got to do stag parties and whatnot. Did you do any stag parties, or what would you classify as the worst gig you've done to date?
I did plenty of whatnot. The worst gig I ever did was actually right after I moved to Los Angeles, and my agents set up a show that paid pretty good, but was at a all Jewish country club in like either Beverly Hills or Pacific Palisades, but a very wealthy area.
Yeah.
And it was all old people, very old
good.
people, very, very old, very Jewish people. And it was like in a big dining hall on the country club premises, and they kept all the lights on, and there was no opener.
Oh no.
And I just went up there. So I just had to
It's making me sweat.
Oh, it was like quiet in the room.
Ugh.
And then I went up there and I launched into my act, which is it's not for super old rich people. It was like an act forged in Portland, Oregon.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like at the height of like Portlandia, Portland, Oregon. So
You're
like
my kombucha mother is named
exactly
Harold.
like it's like jokes like that. And then like I had like absurdist jokes about cheeseburgers, and just it was very me and very not what they wanted to hear. And like 10 minutes I kept at it for, trying to like nothing to nothing. And then eventually I was like, I just have to talk to these people. And then I did crowd work for the remaining 45 minutes, which was only marginally better, but at least people
Oh.
because like, oh, also they like for those gigs, they will send you like information about some people who are going to be there, like, hey, crack some jokes about like Josh. He's like put the whole thing together, and like, and they're like, oh great, what are some funny things about Josh? He drives an Audi. And you're like, oh okay.
Yeah, got it.
Like,
That is hilarious.
So you like try that shit, and then that doesn't work, and then you see Josh in the back who's just like, you know, just like pissed at you, and like, the whole thing was a nightmare. It was a fucking nightmare. But like that, and then some of those gigs are fun though. I remember I did one like I did some holiday parties in Portland when I was still living in Portland for like a heating and cooling company, and that was great because they were just like getting hammered and eating spaghetti, and they were like solid of the earth type people. So, like,
I don't think I've ever got hammered and ate spaghetti at the same time.
You're not in the heating and cooling business, my friend, and you never have been. Some of them are pretty fun, but yeah, that country club one was like the worst. It was the worst.
That sounds awful.
Yeah.
Another game is double up on the medication. This is, you take the pill and you put it under your tongue, and when they come around to check up on you, you insist it wasn't in the cup. It wasn't in the cup.
The gig she gets taken to next is at a hospital, and Tom Hanks is killing it. In this scene, he's like, you, sir, you've had your hand up the entire time, and it's legend comedian George Wallace.
Yeah. One of the greats.
Awesome.
One of the greats. Still
and
great.
They give him nothing to do.
Nothing.
In the movie, they just squander.
Nothing. He sits in, and by the way, he sits in a fucking, gets a real cast put on that day.
Yeah.
For nothing. Just to sit there. Just a laugh. Yeah.
Not even a high five from Tom.
You have to say though, Tom Hanks, like even if like is not a good comedian in this movie, the delivery, he is a very I mean, like,
I get the feeling he went in practice. Like,
I
he
think so
went
too.
into clubs. Like, knowing what we know about the gentleman, I don't think he phoned it in and all. I just think the character is written. It's not a likable person. And maybe it was a challenge for him. And I encourage people to watch these movies, not trying to disparage anyone, but you just have to acknowledge that these three people that are like the main cast are like rays of sunshine, and in this movie,
nobody's likable.
Shine.
No one's likable. They're all very flawed people, which is like fine in real life and probably accurate, but like, it's a motion picture for God's sake.
Yeah, it's kind of like that movie, Funny People.
Yeah. Where nobody's cool.
And you're just like, well, and if you watch it now, it's very. I mean, there's some problematic stuff in that movie.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Next, Sally sees Tom go over and talk to a child who clearly has cancer because we're watching a comedy.
And that's luckily it becomes a huge part of the movie that they bring up again.
Yes.
So at least it's justified.
Oh man.
No, he looks at a chart and it's sad for no reason.
Yes. No, that's it.
That the world is cruel.
And then they just ride sad on the subway. And you're just like, okay.
I suppose it was the attempt was that it was to humanize and make something alluring about Tom Hanks, right?
Something good, but it just played sad. Triumphant music plays as she gets home to rush together a dinner before John Goodman brings the church people over.
That's right.
And now the film kind of has a pulse for this scene. You see the kids are running around, and she gets water from the the fish tank, which is how an echinacea, I think, was discovered. And my favorite part is that right as the people walk in, you hear one of the kids say the black goldfish is missing.
Yeah.
And I just that was like so well timed.
So well timed. Don't you hear like a tea kettle going off or something in the background?
Yeah. It's really good. And then the pastors are there, and one kid says,
"What did one cocksucker say to the other?"
And then they hard cut. Like that run of the movie was pretty fun and entertaining. And like served to be like in contrast to her telling these like terrible jokes she bought from some schmo. Like, oh, there's like really funny stuff happening in this woman's life, so you can sort of see where the source code is going to be like soon.
Yes, that's very true.
And it was a fun slapsticky scene. Yeah.
And John Goodman does a spit take, which is awesome, but we don't get the punchline. So, as a joke writer, if Corden came to you and was like, "Ian, I need a punchline for this joke," what did one cocksucker say to another?
What did one cocksucker say to the other? You gonna finish that? I don't know.
See, this is why you get paid the big bucks. I love that in the scene, the other one's there. Like, it's just...
They're having a coffee. They're sitting there. Just two suckers hanging out.
Oh, man. Yeah, so Tom's trying to get the scout to see him, and it's really just painful to watch. There's comedy not connecting, which as an audience member is painful to watch a comedian not connect.
Oof.
Anyone here from, well, don't you hate it when comics do that? It means they don't know what else to say.
It's got to be equally awful or worse to be on stage and have it not connecting.
Oh, it's so bad. One of the worst shows I ever did. It was early on. I had to drive to Vancouver. It was in a well-lit bar that was mostly for pool. And I got there early to go over my jokes and to maybe write a little bit. And like the table next to me were like finalizing their divorce. Like,
oh no.
Going over all the plans and like stayed for the show. And I went up there and bombed so hard for like all 4 minutes that I got off stage and walked my car. Didn't get the nominal amount of money that I was promised. And what sucks early on when you bomb, like there's a couple things. Like when you've been doing stand-up for a while, you have a wealth of good sets to be like,
yeah,
okay, so I've done stand-up 800 times and like 740 of them were good. So
Yeah.
you know you're not like awful at it or whatever. And it's easier to get on stage the next time. You can like get up easy to another mic, go to a show, ask your friend, hey, can I do a guest spot? I just bombed. I need to like get the taste out of my mouth. Back then, I remember leaving being like, I don't know the next time I'm going to be able to do stand-up. It's like 4 or 5 days away. And like, I couldn't fucking like sleep like that night. Like it was one of the worst feelings ever. It sucks so bad when you bomb early, especially because your first few sets usually go well because of adrenaline, you know, like
you hear that.
Yeah.
Because if it goes bad the first time, people just stop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And once you had a taste of the good stuff, you're like, I'll get back to it.
You want it back. You want it back so bad. Yeah.
Tom's losing it in the largest backstage area at this part of the film. Speaking of like backstage areas and green rooms, I remember you opening for Kanane.
Yeah.
And you brought me into the green room, which was very nice of you. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I've been waiting years for that.
It was
Thank you.
it was like a small room. It wasn't this massive, huge.
No, they're not big anywhere really, and they don't really need to be. You're not a band, you know. So
right.
At a comedy club, it needs to be big enough for 3 people to eat chicken fingers, and like that's kind of all that is. Cobb's Comedy Club in San Francisco has a really big green room, but that's because it's a gigantic room that I think other kind of acts play. Like if you make the move up to theaters, like now I play Rev Hall when I come to Portland, and like it's a bigger green room, but that's because also bands play there, and then it's like 7 people and their instruments and all that stuff, so it needs to be a little bit bigger. But like, yeah, they're small. They're like little
tiny.
Yeah, but like it's also not a bummer. Like ideally, you're not spending too much time in that green room, so you can just kind of.
It's not like your hotel room or something.
Right, exactly. And like, if you're in a band, again, another thing is like you got to be able to you get off stage, take a shower, get back in the bus, and now you're driving to like San Francisco or whatever. Yeah. And like for stand-ups, you don't really need to do that. You're going back to your hotel and you're going to eat ice cream in bed. Yeah.
Yeah, and come back and do a show tomorrow.
Exactly.
Or 2.
Tell you about medical school. You can't make the mistake of letting them know that you're squeamish about some things, because man, they smell it on you. They smell it on you. In medical school, I once made the mistake of telling this female lab partner of mine that I couldn't stand to see things suffer like little frogs.
Then there's a whole sequence with Tom and his doctor dad, and
yeah.
we learn about the medical history, and his dad walks away. We don't get to see Tom like really kill it for his dad, which is kind of a bummer. And then a guy with a boombox comes on, and he's like, "I'm the boombox guy."
This is heavy, yeah. What the fuck? I don't like.
Check it out, baby. Shoot 'em up, feeling the beat now. Smooth me higher and higher now.
Sometimes I'll read, like, I don't even really read comic books, but like when I did, like The Watchmen is like this, and there's other ones where you go back and like these depictions of 1980s New York where everyone was like, I don't like a hip hop punk kind of,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like a lot of mesh
Yeah.
shirts and like
Mhm.
weird sunglasses and stuff like that. I'm like, did these people exist? I guess they must have, you
Well,
know?
if you watch Breaking 2 Electric Boogaloo, it's mostly that.
That is true. That's mostly
Yeah.
that.
And that's pretty much a documentary, so.
There were so many weird comedian archetypes in that. Like,
Yes.
yeah.
Well, the next person's a mime guy who comes on stage.
Yeah.
And this is to be on Carson? Like what?
We don't like that. That's element has either separated or been removed from stand-up comedy.
Yes. Well, then the next scene is Tom and Sally in a completely deserted bowling alley, which seems unnecessary. They could just be in the club in that scene, but they're like, and I'm like, how did they get into this bowling alley? It's just this one scene where he says that he used to make people laugh, and she says life's hard with her husband and her kids and everything. And then Tom says,
I'll say anything to a woman and not mean it. I'll say I love her. I'll say she's beautiful. I'll say she's sexy. I don't mess around with funny.
because he's saying she's funny, but he's also just admitting to some really gross behavior.
He'll lie. He'll just lie. To sleep with a woman. Yeah. But funny is sacred. That's the fucking.
What a weird way to compliment somebody.
The bummer thing about that is that's accurate too. Like,
Oh,
fucking
yeah.
like stand-up comedians will absolutely have this weird, and you see it all the time, like this weird sanctity around the idea of funny.
Right.
It has to be sacred. It's fucking sacred. And like, listen, it's very like, I mean, like I'm saying this as someone who spends 60 to 70 hours a week writing for a TV show. So like,
yeah,
my involvement in the stand-up comedy world is absolutely been diminished, or like not been diminished, but it's not the same as people who that's their whole life. You
all
know?
they do. Yeah, yeah.
And it is sacred to those people, but it's like they take it so fucking seriously, like all the time. It's just fucking gross, man. Like to the point where everything is more like comedy and is more important than anything else. And like you can be a very funny person and a successful stand-up without believing that. Like that doesn't have to be a thing you make yourself think. You'll still be able to tell jokes. Like,
do you think some of that comes from like the insecurity because like anyone thinks that they can do comedy?
That's probably part of it.
Maybe some of it.
Oh, and like I think a lot of what you get from like stand-up comedy is like people who there are successful people who then try to do stand-up. You see it all the time. Like
yes,
every time the Portland comedy contest would happen, there'd be people who were like, I'm an attorney and I want to try to do this. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But like none of those people are ever really very good at it.
No,
you know?
yeah.
And I think a big part of that sacred thing is like there are a lot of people who have never really felt purpose until they started doing stand-up, and they maybe never felt community until they started doing stand-up.
Sure.
So they're like people who are in a gang who have been deprived of those like
that's the little clicks you talked about
those
earlier.
little clicks. Yeah. So they get like very defensive of it, but like you can still love comedy and still believe in community and the sacredness of comedy without like, I mean, I'm dancing around the issue of like defending the right to tell like a racist joke, or you know what I mean, to like use certain words and shit like that. Like people hide like behind the sacredness of comedy, like hide awful stuff behind it all the time, and it's just like the Tom Hanks character did. You know what I mean? Like I'll say awful shit to a woman, but I won't mess around with funny because that's more important than people. You know, and they're like people.
Yeah,
a lot of people who think that. Like,
oh, that's sad. What is it that you don't like about the store?
It is.
I can cut it out if you don't want to.
Oh no, I'm happy to talk about it.
Okay,
I'm never really gonna like. I mean, listen, it's also like a comedy club that a lot of people have a lot of great memories from. But like, there's a couple things. They're so they are self-mythologizing in a way that sucks. Like on a personal level, like I would go there and like, you know, I'd already like done late night and I'd been on Chelsea lately and like was a new face and like had lots of comedy bona fides and like, you know, I just like didn't have time like to go perform at the store. You have to like, they would make you show up at the open mic and not go up, but you have to go hang out for like several hours a night. Like, oh, you got to go and you got to go fucking like participate in the system until you ever get a chance to go up. And then like, they put you up like late at like a bad spot and like all this shit. Like, listen, I don't need everyone. Like a lot of people do late night and like, I don't need like deference based on that fact, but like, I just don't have time to go play this
gatekeeping
to get to do the gatekeeping. Like, you don't have to anymore. Like there's enough other places to perform. And
Yeah.
like, and to do it well, that like you don't have to go like fucking participate in that. And the whole place is like that. It's very worshipy and kind of culty of the people who are like in charge, and that creates weird power imbalances that oftentimes get exploited, as
Yeah.
we've been seeing lately. But like, it's just not for me. And like, the vibe of the place is like not the kind of vibe I want to be around most of the time.
Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah.
One thing that I like about comedy that you see from a outsider is the kind of like camaraderie where like an established stand-up will then pick like an opener or somebody, and then you get to either go on tour with them, or every time they come to town you open for them. And I love to see that kind of stuff because it's less egotistical and it's more just people seeing like hey, you're a good person, you deserve these opportunities.
That stuff is great. I had like Kinane and Mark Maron. I was Hannibal for a while. John Oliver, like they like all did that for me. Like brought me on the road with them and stuff. And like, it's fucking amazing. It opens a lot of doors. That part is great. That's like, that's really amazing.
Totally different than something like that establishment.
And you have to prove it to like some manager. You know what I mean?
Yeah, manager.
It's not even a comedy person. It's not. It's
right.
Like
they're just pushing alcohol. So
they're just pushing alcohol. Like, and it's like, I don't want to fucking prove this to you, you schmuck. Why? Because like, I don't know. It just was not for me. I am a big believer in like, if it's funny, like, I mean, like if you get laughs, you're a good comedian. And like, I don't want to have to, I don't know. It's just not my vibe. And it's for some people, and God bless them. Like, I don't think less of people who like do enjoy that. It's just like super not for me.
I get it. Something that's also not for me is the crowd work that happens next in the film.
Oh yeah.
I'm not allowed to use my jokes tonight, so so I'll tell you, I'm a housewife.
Great transition.
Thank you. It doesn't go well, and then she pulls out a back pocket joke about a babysitter, and it works.
Do you have a babysitter?
Charles Manson.
And the next thing we see is she's learning how to do crowd work. So it's kind of like Mrs. Maisel, without all the jazz.
It's implied jazz. There's implied jazz.
That's what it is.
If you watch it with subtitles in brackets, it says implied jazz.
Implied jazz. That's my favorite genre of music. What is this? Oh, it's implied jazz.
Oh, right.
Yeah, it's the new album, Intangible. It's
the Santa Fe scene. Sure, absolutely.
Yeah. Next, we see Goodman wearing a plaid shirt, which is a very Roseanne thing to see.
Yeah.
I saw it and I was like, what am I watching?
Oh, if the streams have been crossed.
Yeah, they argue, and we hear the world's saddest saxophone play. And then Sally goes to a beauty salon and gets an intense perm kind of situation.
That's my favorite genre of music. Is it?
Intense perm. Oh, you know there's saxophone in intense perm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, man. Sally goes and meets Tom at a diner. Oh, by this point, also Tom made a move and kissed her, which made me super uncomfortable.
Oh, it was so gross. There were no signs.
No, it was really bad.
Yeah.
Tom then says that he's good at making kid jokes because he's trying to like hook up with her, which means he's not only trying to actively break up her marriage to a beloved person, but he's like, I can make your kids laugh. Like, ugh.
It's so like it's so like transparently bad. It's just like you're never gonna stick around for the kids. Like, what are you trying to get out of this, man? Like,
yeah. And then he goes crazy and goes and dances singing in the rain outside of a restaurant in the street.
It had very Willy Wonka tunnel vibes to it.
It's so, you can tell he wrote it.
You can tell he wrote it, yeah.
Yeah. He's like, and this is the tunnel scene.
Yeah, God. Like spinning the umbrella. It was so fucking dark, man.
It's so disturbing to see. Man.
He was then like, I mean, like, God, he was, again, comedians are dark, but he was like really in the middle of
It's pretty dark, yeah.
Really in a breakdown.
Yeah. And then they set up for the big show. Old Billy doesn't get to participate, and they make him sit under the stairs.
Billy, what are you doing here?
A contest.
Billy, didn't you? I had a list. I mean, didn't you read the list? Billy, I'm terribly sorry. I mean, I only got 10 spots. It's a network television audition. It's for comics of the future.
That's not funny.
Poor guy. He sang that song earlier. He's the only likable person in this entire show. Him and Taylor Negron. Like,
yes.
Oh, I felt so bad for him.
Oh man.
The haircut scene, I do love. Like, that's when John Goodman finally they let his character turn, and you see like the love in that relationship, and maybe he realizes how he's been unfair to Sally Field. Like when she goes home with the haircut. Like that is a sweet scene.
Yes, yeah. And that really is like as a dad, this stuff happens like that where you're really bummed out and the 6-year-old will say something and you're just like, it puts everything in perspective where you're just like, oh, there's beauty and there's love in the world and I just lost sight of it for a second. But thanks for bringing me back down, kid. So she goes home and the kids are confused. Dad's folding his arms, and she says there's 3 things she loves: being a mom, being a wife, and making people laugh. And they're trying to figure out how to balance her life and family and a career bringing joy to people, which is pretty great. Goodman says, all I can see, he says, can I see you when you come home? And she says, yes. And he says, and I see you perform, and tears well up. And then it cuts right to Tom heckling people. So it's like, screw your emotions. We move on with the show. Damon Wayans is making penis jokes that don't work.
Brothers out there with 3 and 4 inches. Yeah, those are the ones that date white women.
There's an onslaught of craziness happening again.
Oh, sweetheart, God damn, you feel so good. You're so beautiful. I love you so much. And now he says, move your head, I can't see the screen.
Then at the show, she starts killing it, and Goodman's in the audience, and he smiles, and we're like, oh, thank you, please.
He loves it.
Like,
Yeah.
Oh, my gosh. She kills it. Tom goes up and burns himself alive, so she wins the contest.
What he does is interesting to me, and it's a thing comedians do as well. Some people like will dig a hole for themselves and then try to climb out of it.
Yeah.
Like especially pain junkies like this, like Tom Hanks character, like they will go up and like try to make it really hard for themselves just to see if they can like dig out of that hole. Now that's not a 18 months in the stand-up thing necessarily, but like people absolutely do that.
Oh yeah. When you started doing stand-up and I was like, I don't know, I guess maybe I could do stand-up, but I just had zero interest of being myself on a stage.
Yeah.
You know, like if it was like an Abbott Costello situation, I would 100% join you on stage. But like for me to go up and try to say something that I think is interesting, it was so like not going to happen. And then I thought, well, what if I could go up and let the air out of the tires and then I tried to make it interesting, but it just seemed just self-flagellation. Is that a word?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Is it flatulation or flatulation?
Well, they're 2 different things, but I think flagellation is what you're going for. It's like the guy in the Da Vinci Code who hurts himself. Yeah.
Also starring Tom Hanks.
A third kind of Tom Hanks, too.
Yes, it's true. The action star.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it didn't work out for me, but it's just funny that you mentioned that aspect because I remember thinking like instead of trying to ride on the vibe of someone, you know, like burn it to the ground and be like, I'll build it myself.
And try to come back up. Yeah. That's hard too, but people fucking do it. It can be pretty satisfying, but like also people don't like it like they did in that movie where they're like, this sucks, man. Like
everyone in the audience is like, it's like they're watching the movie.
Yeah.
They're like, this isn't good, Seltzer. So anyway, she wins. They go back and forth, and as she leaves, she leaves standing up for a guy who's been a total asshole the whole time.
Nothing but a prick. Infringed on her marriage, kissed her, like put her in weird positions.
Yep.
Why didn't Stephen win?
Because somebody else won.
But we all saw it. He had the best set.
No, he had the second best set. He got 2 votes of the 5. Someone else got the other 3. Now look, don't embarrass me, please. I promised them that I would have you all back on stage before I announced who the winner was. Now come on, anybody who does not get on that staircase right now is disqualified. Now I mean it.
Did Stephen really come in second?
That's what I said.
Then I'm out. Disqualify me.
Lila, come on. What are you doing? Really? What is she doing?
Just in case I won. It's Stephen's.
What is she doing? What are you doing?
I'm going home. Eve, would you please tell my husband to meet me out front?
Wait, please. Lila.
I'm out too.
Me too. I'm in. I'm still in.
Lila. You did win.
The guy's like, you won, and she's like, no, unless
Yeah.
fucking Tom Hanks wins, I'm leaving.
It's
Like,
so
and then another comedian says that too, as
Yeah.
this guy who's been doing it for 18 months.
Yes.
And like, I have to imagine other comedians there have been doing it for 5, 6 years, 7 years.
Well, the
you know,
old
like,
guy under the stage.
that guy's been doing it since for fucking ever. Like,
Yes. He built that building.
and like plays piano for people all night and shit. Like,
Yeah.
they're all like, no, let this guy who's been doing it for 1 1/2 of a year like, win this spot on late night. It's fucking insane. It's so crazy. It's so not fair to Sally Field's character either. It's crazy. It's just crazy.
Yeah. So she goes outside with John Goodman, and they have a sweet little moment. And Tom Hanks wins.
Yep.
And she leaves, and we get a freeze frame of them walking out. But then I was just like, "Fuck Tom Hanks!"
Yeah.
Like, it's just
Tom
like,
Hanks. I don't know who thinks that's a happy ending.
What?
Like,
It's so confusing. It just shows like, well, if you just screw everybody over and only think about yourself, you'll win.
You'll win. Like, they just didn't. I don't know, man. Like, it was like unless his goal was to sort of comment on what an unpleasant world that is.
Yeah. Hey guys, bad people win all the
Bad
time.
people win
Like,
all the
what a
time, right? Like,
great thing.
Unless that was what they were going for, in which case, like, well done. And like, maybe they were. Maybe it's like a meta commentary movie, but like,
I don't think so.
not with those actors, man. That's like the Feel
No.
Good Gang. Like,
It's so weird. I want them to make a sequel with you and David and Sean.
Yeah.
So Sean's got to be Sally Field's character.
I feel like he would be Sally Field.
I think he would nail it.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
he's got the earnest vibe and a little bit of Sally Field in there. I
Little
think
Sally
is what
Field.
people normally say.
I'm John Goodman. David is Tom Hanks. Yeah.
Yes.
Or vice
he could be-
versa.
yeah, he could be Sean Goodman, I guess.
Sean.
And that brings us to the end of the film. Do you have any final thoughts for Punchline?
I mean, like, again, they got a lot of the stuff right. Like, they were nice details in an otherwise horrible to look at painting. Like,
Yes.
I don't know, man. Like, I had to watch Marty starring Ernest Borgnine afterwards just to sort of cleanse the
Yes.
palate. Like, I was just like, I feel bad, but
Yeah.
it did make me miss doing stand up in a big way. I will say that, like, which kind of part of it was like, look at these schmucks. I'm better than
Yeah,
that. Like, I wanted to
could
get up
do
there.
that.
Yeah.
Good. Glad it fueled that, and I hope you get to do it sometime.
Thank you. I hope so too. I tweeted the other day. I was like, "Hey, I'm going to be in Portland. Does anyone think like doing a socially distanced show in a park would be a good idea?" And everyone was like, "No!" And I was like, "Fair enough. I didn't know. I have no idea. I won't."
Not in our parks.
Yeah, do it on the street. Like
You could do it in the witch's house or castle or whatever.
yeah.
Forest Park.
I have no idea. Like, they're right probably, but I'm like, why not? If people
Yeah,
all sat 6 feet away.
Or like if we're doing like drive-in things for movies, why couldn't we do that for, everyone's in their cars with their little iPhone app and
Sugar Shane Torres is on a drive-in theater tour right now with Burt Kreischer.
where it is, he's always been on a drive-in tour, tour theater.
He's always been.
Oh no, that
Always
didn't
doing
come out right.
drive-ins. I get what you're saying though.
Thank you.
The ingredients were there. It's all right. You just
Man, I still laugh about when I saw him holding court at a breakfast place and I sent you a picture of them and you were like, show him this, and sent me a picture of you flipping him off. And I went up to the table and I was like, excuse me. And I was like super just like, excuse me, are you Shane Torres? And he just like sat back in his chair and like, yep. And then I said, my friend said to show you this. And then he laughed so loud that I think the chef like dropped his knife in the kitchen. It was like
chocolat bleu. Yeah.
It was the rat from Ratatouille, who's not French, but I did watch the French version. So. Man, it was great. Anyway,
it's so fun. He's such a lovable man. I love Shane Torres.
I love any of you guys. I mean, I just love the comedic groups that then moved, like the Chicago scene with Pete and Hannibal and them.
Yeah.
And they were all, and you saw, if you see the right time, the right window of time, you see all these wonderful people that have been working through this stuff together. It's really great to see.
It's pretty crazy, man. Like that feel very lucky to have been part of like Portland's mini contribution to that narrative, you know,
Yeah.
me and Shane and Sean and Funch and like
Yeah.
a few other people. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think it's great. This is the final section of the podcast. These are questions just about you. What is a good day like for you in comedy?
Oh, in comedy.
Yeah.
Man, so let's say like there's two. So like, I mean, I can, as a writer, like a day I really enjoy is like showing up. Maybe there's something happened in the news and you like come up with like an idea to do on the show that day. That's like always my favorite thing to do. Is like we come up with it that morning and whatever it is, we like write it out, execute it. You get it in front of James. He loves it. He's laughing. He's like pitching ideas. And you get that like going and like just taking something from like it doesn't exist to it's on national television that night is like such a fun thing to do. But also like, I mean, like, I don't know, like a day, like when we do a crosswalk, like I came up with that and I write those. So like the days we get to like make a crosswalk, it's so many moving parts and everybody like firing on all cylinders. Like there's like the costume department is like doing their best work and like the prop people are doing their best work. And like, we have this choreographer who's amazing and she's like working with the dancers to work out the choreography. And like, you're coming up with jokes like while you're on the set and everything. And like, it's this huge production. Like there's police shutting down the road, like not shutting down the road. It's a real road, but like, there's like cops on motorcycles. I know that you're not supposed to say anything good about cops right now. These fucking pigs on motorcycles are sitting there, and it's all because like you came up with an idea, and like I think this will be funny, and then like it gets. One of my favorite things is we were filming a crosswalk in London. It was the Andrew Lloyd Webber one, and for Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat, I was just like, it would be really funny if we made fake arms for James while he's wearing the dreamcoat. And at the end of the song, he spreads them out, and then the arms just keep going. So he has like two super long arms, and they made it happen. And
that's so crazy.
And Andrew Lloyd Webber's up in like a cherry picker, like a scissor lift, you know, sitting up there watching it because that was another idea you had, and then all of a sudden, like these people who were born in England in the '60s, having no idea one day your paths would cross, and that would mean they would have to design fake arms that out, and you're like watching it happen, and like you can think back, like I remember sitting in the green room with one of the writers and a producer, and I pitched that idea, and now it's happening halfway across the globe. It's like so fucking cool, man. It's like
it's amazing.
A lot of the times the job just seems like a job, and like there's plenty of moments though that are like, oh, you're doing something amazing and you should really treasure this, right? Because you know
you made Mel Brooks laugh.
I mean, come on.
I can't even imagine.
Fucking crazy. That guy, when he came into, he knows he's Mel Brooks, which is beautiful because he like comes into a room and everybody gets at least a scoop of Mel Brooks. Everybody, it doesn't matter if you're like the camera guy or if you're a writer's assistant or if you're James himself. He comes up, how are you doing? What's this camera though? I want a tight close up. I want to make sure you give me a tight close up on my good side. On my good side, you know. And then he's like walking around and like everybody gets like a little moment with Mel Brooks, and like to be so generous with your spirit, you know what I mean? And I got like a couple with him, and that was like so cool. I still have an email that's misspelled, and it's from his it's not from him, it's from his like producer, and it's like Mel or Ian, Mel likes you are writing, so YOU apostrophe R-E. But Mel likes your writing, and I still have it. I'm like, holy shit,
awesome.
So like, yeah, man, it's fucking, that's amazing. Like I've really gotten to do some stuff that like I never suspected I would.
Well, I always hate to ask this question because what's a bad day like?
Oh my God. There's a lot of different kinds. There's traffic, for frickin' sake. God, LA, man. A bad day is like, so I'll go to stand up for a bad day. Although I have great days in stand up and I have bad days at the Late Late Show. But like a bad day in stand up is you're tired of your jokes. You haven't written anything new that you like in a while. Nothing that excites you. And you go up and you do a show and it doesn't work on the crowd either. So like sometimes you're just not in the mood, but like you
Yeah.
got to go do stand up anyway, and like
Yeah.
you do your old stuff, and you don't love it, but like you're good enough at performing it that the crowd at least likes it. And
Mhm.
some days it doesn't work either, and you're like, who was this for? Who was any of this for? I got nothing out of it. Their life is worse for having seen it. And like nobody's better off for the stand-up you did that night, and that's the worst. That's why like it's so important to keep writing, because at least like you could excite yourself with new material. But like those are the worst.
This is unfortunately a common question for your profession, but
Yeah.
do you have any advice for someone interested in pursuing a career like you have?
Yeah, it's like, I mean, I could go for hours talking about it, but I think the most basic form of advice for somebody who wants to do stand-up, if you just want to be a TV writer, I got into that through stand-up, so I don't have great advice. I have good advice about the practical nature of it, like what a day-to-day life is, but like how to get into being a TV writer outside of stand-up, I don't really know what that path is like. But if you want to get into stand-up, it's 3 things, and you have to do each of them as much as you fucking can. You have to write as much as you can, you have to watch as much as you can, and you have to perform as much as you can. And those are the 3 things. There's so little you can control in comedy and entertainment, whatever. The 3 things you can't control, and this is what's better about stand-up than acting, is you can control how often you do it. Like, there's no open mics for actors. You know what I mean? Like, I think there were people who were like, I don't know if, like, within how funny I am, you know what I mean? Like maybe funnier, maybe not funnier, depends on what the day is, who I started in Portland with, and they didn't work as hard like at being a stand-up comedian, and that's the big difference. I mean, there's lucky breaks too, but like luck is, it's like they say, preparation meets opportunity, and I've found that to be very true. And you have to control what you can control, and like it's, man, like that's the one thing you can do is work as hard as you can. And the other thing I'll say about watching a lot of it early on is like, don't be afraid if you sound like your favorite comedians when you first start out.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Yeah. Cause like I certainly did. Like my early writing sounded like Kinane or like Eddie Izzard. You know, I had jokes that like, this is an Eddie Izzard joke or like what, and like, that's going to happen early on. And part of that other part of the process, which is perform as much, is like, the more you get up there on stage, the more you're going to hone your own voice and like sort of like sand out those edges so it doesn't seem as obvious that you're doing Mulaney up there. And like, and that's how you develop your own
That's
voice.
a hard one.
That's a really hard one.
That's a really hard one. That's like Mitch Hedberg or something.
It's really hard. And also he's doing like Judaism. So it's hard for like as a Jew to like, I sound like Mulaney, but he sounds like me. But like, so like,
It's
don't
like
be
Inception.
It is Inception. So just don't be afraid of that. Like, that's okay. You're not your finished product, like when you first start out. And like, the other thing I'll say is, and this was nice about coming up in Portland, is like, strive to be yourself as much as possible. Like, strive to do stuff that you think is funny. Cause again, you can't ever control whether the audience will, you know, like you just never really know. And it feels shitty if you go up doing something you don't think is funny and they don't think is funny, kind of like what I talked about. So like, try to write stuff that is like you. Like I wrote stuff that were like, if it like, and everybody does, where it's like on the page, you could hand this to another very funny person and they couldn't get laughs out of it. You know what I mean? But like for you, you can. And like on a very real level, like you being an individual will get you farther than like there's formulas you can follow, right? Like I think back to a weekend I did in Kansas City, Kansas at this fucking awful club called Stanford and Son. And I was the headliner because of Chelsea lately. And the feature act was a guy who had done the road a lot, you know, like in that area. And he blew me out of the water every single show because he was going up there and he was doing racial stuff and like stuff that was like really mean about women and shit like that. And like stuff from talking to him backstage, like I'm like, this doesn't seem like the guy I'm talking to. Like the guy you see on stage, like this guy seems like a sweet dude. And then he would go up on stage and that shit would work because it just works with some people. You know what I mean? But like, I didn't do that stuff and I fucking sucked up there every night. Like I sucked. And like some people would say he's a better comedian than me, but and I don't mean to toot my own horn. Like, I mean, I'm the head writer of a fucking like network TV show.
Yeah.
And I have like stuff on, I've done late night a bunch, and I've got like a lot of, I've gotten to do like a lot of really cool shit. And like, I think a big part of that is because rather than going for like the easy laugh every time, I tried to figure out who I am.
Yeah.
And when you're an individual, people want like, then you're one of one. You know what I mean? There's not this sort of sense I got 10 more just like you. And like that can be very helpful. And on a professional level, and then I can promise you, it is so much more fulfilling on a personal level to do comedy like that. It just feels better. You're representing yourself up there, and when you get the laugh, it's like people are laughing at you, not some like tired old fucking stereotype you trotted out, and that's nice. Like that's a good feeling. So that would be the advice.
That's excellent. And that brings us to the final question. And Ian, it's my favorite question.
Yeah.
Ian, what are your dreams like?
Oh, they've been weird lately, man. I had some weird one. What was it? You wake up and you remember them and I forget them. I had a dream where one of my ex-girlfriends was being like portrayed by like an Indian woman in it. Not from India. That was like 2 nights ago. But I knew it was like my most recent ex. And I was like, we were having like as though they were happening in like a
Bollywood movie remake of your life?
No, I wish. No, that would have been much more like a dramedy, like the kind of thing that wins an Emmy for comedy, but like isn't that funny? Like
they were trying with Punchline.
Yeah. Like it's like a real dark comedy kind of thing, but like she was being played by an Indian woman, and like that was recent. I have weird ones, man.
Yeah.
But boring. Weird, but
so
boring.
They're not stress related or comedy related?
Very rarely comedy related. No. They're always often like relationship related. I had one. All I remember from my last night's stream was I had a bloody nose in it. Yeah.
So you don't ever wake yourself up laughing?
No. I do, but it's just remembering like a joke I had.
Oh yeah. Well, Ian, thank you so much for watching Punchline, and thank you for recording this episode.
James coordinate.
Yeah. Thank you, Ian.
Don't go my door.
All right.
My pleasure.
Thank you. And everyone should still listen to AFE and check out your book. I don't know. Did you write a book yet?
No. Read a book.
No book propaganda.
Come on, read Consider the Lobster. Do it. Come on.
Read Confederacy of Dunces.
Do it. You fucking nerds.
All right. Thank you.
My pleasure.